Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready for the Wot Supp podcast. We're talking all things supplements with insiders, athletes, experts, and more. So sit back, relax, and prepare to find out what's up.
Welcome to the Wot Supp podcast. This is episode 16, and we have a very, very special guest. I love these ones where we cross over to our big US guests. We have John, who is the CEO and creator of Myoblox. This is very exciting for us. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Oh, thank you so much. Sorry again, it's taken a while for me to get on here, but hey, rest assured, I'm here, and I'm here for as long as you guys want me.
The fans have been going bonkers at us. As soon as we kind of went the early crow and said we're getting John from Myoblox on, everyone was like, "Oh yes, next episode," and it was just a bit of a scheduling issue there, right? But here we are. We've also got regular hosts, Will. How's it going there, Will? How's your morning been so far?
Phenomenal morning, mate. We're going well. I'm excited for this one, and particularly to have another formulator on is always an absolute pleasure, John. I look forward to picking your brain, mate, on all things business and formulas because you've got some really unique ones, man, that you've put together over the years. So this will be fun.
Thank you.
Really keen for this episode.
And then last but not least, we have Matty Highgate, who is, of course, our connection with John, represents the Australian importer for Myoblox. How's it going, Matty?
Doing well, man. Fired up for this one. So, yeah, I've got a lot of DMs on John coming on as well. So I'm glad to have you on, John. He's a bit of a mystery, this guy.
He is. I think that's the whole thing that I wanted to get into with you, John, because you almost got this you've almost got this Willy Wonka vibe about you. It's like, it's this guy who people have heard about. There's all sorts of stories. You come out with the wacky hair on the Instagram, or all sorts of stuff. I don't know if you've got Oompa Loompas working down there or what, but there's definitely
I'll tell you.
There's definitely some magic and mystery surrounding Myoblox. So can you kind of tell us a little bit more about the brand for the Australian fans who just love the formulas and the products but don't really know the Myoblox story?
Yeah, of course. And that's something that I've actually never even spoke about, for the longest time, and like I had previously said, in 2017, people had thought that we were brand new. They thought we had just came out to the industry. And while a segment of that is true, we kind of went a little more mainstream during that era, to now, but previously, we were more of a Bay Area based supplement company. And we had started, it was just me from the get go. So originally we started in 2011. I was originally going to do a brand with one of my old bosses. That didn't really work out. So I ended up getting fired. After that, I pulled the trigger, there was never a right time to do anything. And like, as you all know, I just had to do something, so I bought a bunch of raw material, had it packaged up. We had stand-up pouches. The formula was very good. The flavor was freaking terrible. Let's see, what was it? It was a peptide. It was a whey peptide at 1400 Daltons, which it's a molecular weight, so a lot of the time you'll see companies claim low molecular weight protein, but that doesn't really say too much unless you specify the Dalton size. Anyways, I might be going off course there. But I sold everything I really had to start the company. I started walking products to people. I didn't even have a car at the time. Grew it literally from the ground up. And, I started having a lot more fun. I started being able to be more creative. I got better at graphic design, formulating. I started doing my own flavoring too. And, before I knew it, I was making full-blown products, and that was just my favorite thing because, I loved cooking. I loved making stuff. I was always a creator at heart. When I was a child, I loved to draw. So even on some of the limited editions that you see nowadays, those are all like reflections of my drawings almost when I was a child.
And so you do all your own graphic design there, John? Is that all you? Because it's totally different to what we see in the supplement space, right? There's a definite trend in the supplements that we see on the market, and then there's Myoblox.
Yeah, I do all the graphic design, I do all the plating, I make sure that, the plating with tactile holographic is all cohesive with the label. But sometimes it's your work is only good as the people who are printing it. You know what I mean? So I can have all the ideas in the world for plating, to make the label, but if it just isn't realistic, it can't really happen. However, I usually make it happen, so pretty happy about that. I'm happy how everything had turned out. My favorite release to date probably has been Super Duper Skywalk.
Me too, 100%, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matty, you haven't brought me a sample of that one down before.
It's sold out before it landed.
Oh man, no, Matt, you probably got one in the background somewhere.
I do, man. It's part of my collector's items. But a lot of people don't know, John, that you actually do the flavoring and every little detail, every little thing. Even when we were talking about formulas when I was over there in California in Huntington Beach, you were telling me and Pat about how L-citrulline wasn't to your standards, so you just cut it.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Stability is a big thing. I had a meeting yesterday. I was speaking about stability and, how you're supposed to, put it through that whole process before you even bring it to market. Because sometimes you could be adding all the coolest stuff in the world. You can over-engineer your product. However, if it's not realistic and it's not going to stay stable, what's the point? That's bad for the consumer.
That's a lesson that I learned early in my piece too, mate. I took out the way I started was I took out a personal loan back in 2015. I was on about 40K a year at the time. I took out a 20 grand loan to buy a pallet of a pre-workout I wanted to make. Awesome formula. Everything was fantastic. And in about a week's time, it went rock hard. Lost it all. Factory washed their hands of it. Didn't want to know about it. They don't care. And I only paid that personal loan off. I think it was a year ago. So it was, but it's
painful.
It breaks my heart.
We'll see that.
Sorry,
that's
mate?
a thing. I was going to say that's something that we in Australia here are only just catching up with. The US, you guys have had a lot of contract manufacturing for a long time, and they know how to do this stuff. They know which compounds are going to pull water in and whatnot. And a lot of the Australian contract manufacturers, they didn't make supplements before. If we rewind 5 or 6 years, we really didn't have contract manufacturers here. If we wanted a supplement made, we were using the US contract manufacturers and then importing it in. But we seem to have caught up in the race now, and there's about 5 or 6 really good ones here now that have finally got it right. But yeah, definitely huge issues in Australia with products going rock hard for a long time there. Let's rewind back a little bit, John, because you are of formulas, especially in that nootropic space. What's your background? Where does that kind of knowledge and interest come from?
It's funny. I actually get asked that question a lot, and when I tell them, everyone's very surprised because I'm very honest, very upfront. I had dropped out of college. I just didn't really like it at all. It's funny. The only class I liked actually in college was philosophy, and then my philosophy teacher told me to drop out. maybe that's why I like the philosophy teacher. I don't really know. But I left and I just started reading a lot. I love taking pre-workout. I love the whole supplement industry. I just liked how you can make something from nothing and it can have some kind of effect, whether it be sensory or even the aroma when you smell the product and how you taste it and all those things. So product development started to become like just I had such a big love for it. That's why I have one of my, I don't like saying the word slogan, but a saying I have is art, craft, and science. There's so much art that goes into formulating, how you take care of the ingredient, where you source it. That's kind of more of like a craft to me. And the science, the science has always got to be there, but it doesn't have to be, I think, too in depth just about it, because what I mean by that is that the consumer, sometimes they don't really care why it does what it does. They kind of more care of like what's it going to do for me. Yeah. So I try to do a more simple approach nowadays. I had a complete different glossary of words I used, but I used to lose everybody in my conversations, but even going back to your question, you know, my background is nothing actually. You know, it's literally nothing. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I started reading. You know, reading a lot, and there was times I was from when I woke up to when I slept. And man, there was years I only slept about 4 hours a night. You know, for a good 2-year span. And in that time span that I was awake, I did my gym, I ate some meals, and I just read and did research, you know. So there was a time period I started logging hours, and I was just a couple years span, and I was doing I did 10,000 hours of like research and stuff. So I got really, really clever, you know. I'm pretty smart, you know, in regards to like formulating and stuff. I do know synergies, and that's like kind of why I do what I do. A lot of people do not like prop blends, let's say. However, if you kind of have a more of like a synergistic approach to it, you know, sometimes you don't always want to disclose things because a formula is only good as, you know, it's only good as what it's really going to do for you. You know, people like what they like. It's kind of like going to a prestigious restaurant, let's say, and then you sit down and this steak is amazing. You know, you're eating it, right? And they're gonna, you know, you ask like, oh, so how much of this did you use? This and this. The steak's a prop blend. How they cooked it is a prop blend. It's the art, you know. Like I'm not gonna sit
And I think
down.
it's on the other side of that coin too. It's funny how people will make their decision about the product that they're going to use based on the fully disclosed panel, and they think they know they think they know what it's going to be like by reading that panel when really no idea about some of these concepts like synergy or, you know, whatever it might be, or at least they think they do.
Yeah.
And it's just like sitting in a restaurant and being presented with the recipe and making your decision on what you're going to eat based on the recipe would be totally ridiculous, right? How's this going to taste? Oh, hang on. They've only used 10 milligrams of salt instead of 20. That's not going to taste any good. Which is ridiculous.
You couldn't have said it better, honestly. And that's like why, you know, for the longest time, even when people tried to, even the review companies and the channels, they were, you know, I was getting a lot of hate on that avenue. I wasn't really too concerned with it because that is the same exact philosophy and approach that I take. Just how you said it right there with the recipe, perfect. That's exactly what I believe.
You've got a good hybrid though, because what I actually enjoy seeing, and I guess here in Australia we've almost gone the opposite way where it's you know, blasphemy not to be open paneled, and I see it from both sides, especially after having James Pacuzzi on the other week, and he presented a really interesting point on prop blends. But what I find really cool, you guys were sort of one of the first to our market, obviously. When you guys got launched, it made a lot of waves, and the interesting thing though was the actives were fully disclosed, which I love, and then the nootropic and stimulant blend was what was propped. And I'm like, that's cool, because people are going to know how much beta alanine they're getting, how much taurine, how much they're getting, you know, what they need to know about what's going to help them perform better. But the stuff where the real art is, you know, the little minutia between how nootropics interact, dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, all that sort of fun stuff. That's the art, as you said.
It's the mystery.
That's the mystery. And it's so much more fun because I was doing product samples this week, and I had an incredibly basic bitch fucking formula that I had to play with. And it was just some hordenine, you know, there was a little bit of hordenines, a little bit of alpha GPCs, some huperzine A for the acetylcholine esterase. It was really fun. It looked really plain on paper. And it's just like the most euphoric mood I've had in weeks. And it just comes back to, I like what you've done. It's a practical prop blend. You know, it's a real, it gives you the actives parts, you know, what you're going to get from a performance angle. But also in that game, you've taken a really different spin too. Like to have a pre-workout without citrulline here, for example, was almost unheard of. You guys brought it back in a limited edition later on with low carb memory, but to launch without one, that's a really interesting thing. And I think it speaks a lot to you guys' brand values probably being, you know, a very unique concept. So was that sort of something that you anticipated causing a bit of turbulence when you launched the product at all, mate? Or
yeah, you know, I was kind of counting on it, you know, because no matter what, I mean, they're going to talk about the product, you know, and I was never the biggest fan of citrulline. I'm not going to lie, just because everyone was doing it. You know, I'm kind of more of that, like, let's say, even on the consumer side, like going out and going shopping, I don't really want what everyone else has, you know, because if you're doing exactly what everyone else is doing, and if there's no prop blends, all you're doing is just taking a couple things from each formula and just putting it into your own. There's no art to it. You're kind of in the sense like flatlining the whole creative aspect of the whole industry. And that's like what I have a big problem with. So I just citrulline always slowed my muscles down and stuff. I did a lot of plyometrics, a lot of more explosive stuff, you know, when I was working out a lot. Nowadays it's a little different, but it just didn't do too much for me. I started kind of regaining a little bit of love for it when people started kind of backing off that ingredient. You know,
I have just released a pre-workout that has no citrulline in it, but I think Matty's just dropped out for a second there, but that's all right. It has no it has no citrulline in it. But my issue with citrulline was for me personally, on an anecdotal level, I feel like I can get as good a pump from other compounds that I don't have to waste as much space. For me, I always look down the path of things like, you know, glycerol monosterate, agmatine sulfate, these sort of things that I can dose a little bit lower. And for me personally, I could get an equal pump out of. Is space something that you consider when you're looking at ingredients, or do you just go, I want to make the best thing I can, and I don't care if the scoop is the size of a farm pail?
That'll be the day. It might come soon. You never know. But yeah, you know, I do think that, you know, I think space is pretty important for a product, you know, for many reasons. And I'll start off with just first, you know, I could use, instead of maybe 6 grams of citrulline or 8 or 10 or whatever the amount may be, you know, there's plenty. I mean, I could put maybe a gram of, you know, maybe, I haven't ever used this compound until a limited edition we're doing in the future, Pico 2 with agmatine sulfate. Even though there's not the most research on agmatine sulfate, I personally have used it and I personally love it. You know, and glycerol monosterate, you know, considering that you put, you know, you make sure that it stays stable, because that thing can rock up a product real quick. I've been through pallets before that have been rock hard and I had to throw it in the dumpster.
Yeah, glycerol is so hydroscopic. Hey, it's got a basically a tri hydrogen group. So you know you're gonna get, but it just wants to hold water, that molecule, doesn't it? It's born to be a water buffalo. But it wants. I think what's really unique. You don't have, but I don't think you're scared at all of taking up a lot of room, because you were one of the early pioneers of having the big. What would it have been? Probably a 15, 20 gram serving size on the original logo, because it was like 5 grams of beta alanine alone.
Sorry, cut it out. Oh yeah. You know, I used to be really big on beta alanine, you know. I personally love the ingredient, but you know, it's only as good as if you're using it all the time, you know, because beta alanine is a saturation based ingredient, like a creatine almost in a sense, you know. But when I was using beta alanine and I was using it consistently, I don't think I've ever had better workouts my entire life. But realistically, I mean, it's an ingredient that a lot of people just do not like, just because, you know, you get that sensory effect on your, the top of your skin, you know, all your sensory receptors and stuff. So, you know, I'm a people pleaser at the same time, but I want to make sure that it is still very effective.
I like that you've related it back to the actual training part. Stu and I are both bodybuilding background as well, and we live and breathe this stuff. So when we're trying SUPs, I think there's a lot to be said for just trying them. Stu says this quite often, where at some point you've just got to try the bloody thing. And I think with agmatine, on paper, if you trawl through data on agmatine, you're going to be very disappointed. But if you try a gram of agmatine with some sodium, god damn, the pumps are good. You know, like it's a phenomenal.
Oh man, sodium. Oh. Yeah.
I didn't look into sodium as much until the vertical diet. Actually, I was looking at Stan Efferding's earlier work, and he was saying he would take athletes and put them on very high doses of sodium and potassium, but particularly sodium, like 3-4 grams a day. And you know, he was saying that the sort of performance difference was such that it was the equivalent to putting him on anabolics. Basically, he was saying it was such a massive performance enhancement. So you know, I play with potassium nitrate in the pump world and the electrolyte game, but yeah, sodium in particular. But circling it back, I think you're right. Some of the best ingredients are things that might on paper be the least interesting. But agmatine's a cracker example of one of those OG pump ingredients that never really got the acclamations based on the data. But if you take just a gram of straight agmatine, go train, you'll know it's there.
100%. You know, and I think that's the best possible point, you know, for people who want to troll through data. And again, like, that's very cool, you know, but the same people that use all this data based on this study 6 months later, they're going to start diminish that study and say that things have just done a 180. So what that's saying to me is that this evidence isn't really evidence.
I think that we had a guest on last episode, Nick Jones, and we were talking about our anecdotal evidence, and as bodybuilders, we're a really fantastic group to trial things on because we're so controlled in our lifestyle, right? We eat the same foods, meal in, meal out. We do the same training session day in, day out. So there's not a whole lot that changes until we take a new supplement, and all of a sudden we feel A, B, or C. And that's kind of something that I think all bodybuilders have used through every aspect of their life over the years, to determine whether something's working. Hey, I use this training system and I've increased this much on my bicep or whatever. And we use the same principle with these supplements. We kind of, I think sometimes are a little bit ahead of the curve. We can see things happening before the research catches up. And we go, well, we know when we take this, we're swelling up like a pufferfish. But the research isn't there to back it up. So yeah, I think it's one of those things, like Will said, at some point in time, you just have to put down the paper, drink the thing, and go train.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. If you use it and it works, it works. I mean, and that's better than looking at a paper. It's kind of like the same thing as looking at a paper how to box or how to fight. You don't really learn that on paper. You kind of got to get in a fight, and you kind of got to learn how to fight, I guess. But it's the same.
Oh, sorry, mate. I'm just really dwelling on the point you made before, and it just keeps coming back to me because I think we've had this recurring theme. Now, a lot of our listeners, if you haven't had a rundown with Maddie prior, John, are sort of your people who are starting their own business. They own supplement stores, they own brands, they're in the fitness industry. They're very passionate. They might want to start their own business. They aspire to be entrepreneurs and so on, and be creative. And I think something that almost every guest who's been around for a while with some credibility has pretty much said is they've all had years and years of just grinding it. And when you said, back in, 2017 or so, when you were starting to get really noticed and they thought you were an overnight success, but no, you've been going for 9 years now, 2011 and it's 2020. So, it's nearly a decade in the making for that overnight success, that quote we love. You were delivering subs by hand, walking them to people and stuff. Like I love that sort of common theme that appears. Like the highlight reel isn't so, sort of starlit sometimes, but it's you have to do your dues, I think. And I really love that you sort of reinforced this common message that a lot of these guests have had. I think our listeners get so much value from hearing that from people like yourself who've got a massive brand that's growing exponentially, to go, hey, look, John started at the bit of his car as well, like a lot of our other guests have. We all certainly have on this podcast. We've all, sold subs with just, literally pedaled it on foot, still do. And yeah, it's valuable, man. It's real. I fucking love real stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
That's good content.
Right on, man. I appreciate that, and it just feels good, like, I don't know. I never knew I would be like where it is today, to be honest. I always just like, I was like, yeah, I can, make a couple subs and, it'd be kind of fun. My friends would probably like it. I like it.
But that's exactly how it starts, right? Like I know with my brand, I've got a small brand here. And it started out just me making it for my buddies. And I was like, yeah. Let everyone else have the stuff that gets sold in the shops, but I'll make you some formulas that'll rock your world. And they were like, dude, like, can I put this in my gym? And then it was like, dude, can I have this in my PT studio? And then the next thing you knew, 5 or 6 years later, it was, in my shop and then a few other shops, and it's kind of grown from there. But I think there's something to be said for that cult crowd that followed it from the start. It's almost like a band, right? It's almost like the guys who followed Nirvana in Seattle when they were just a pub band. By the time it exploded onto the mainstream scene, everyone was like, "Oh, cool! There's this new band, Nirvana." But the hardcore gritty fans, there's something to be said for those guys. And I think that if you can win that crowd, and if you've got that kind of gritty underground alternative fan base, it's going to carry you through the long term. And that, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think that kind of almost forms some of your brand identity. That cult crowd will decide what your brand stands for and what it is. Would you agree with that?
100%. just even what you said right there is exactly why I still follow certain music artists, is because I remember their first mixtape, you know, I remember all of these like little things. And to me, that's very special. You know, I've never been I don't like overnight successes just because I think it's more of like a, how you say, it's ignorant to assume it, you know? So there's more to the story. Now, if I don't know the story, then I'm just not really gonna fall in love with the band or the brand or anything like that. So I think for the longest time was, since people thought it was overnight success, they thought, you know, they could say this and that about the brand without, you know, any real backlash, you know, because everyone wanted, that's what people wanted to say, you know. But I do agree with that 100%. You know, I think if you have that kind of cult-like following, you know, you kind of want to, they want to see you do, they want to see it grow. You know, it's kind of like having like a seed, you know, and like you plant like a seed, right? And you're growing it, and it's like your little baby, you know, you just kind of like keep putting water on it every single day. You see it kind of grow, and it's kind of like become a part of your life almost, you know. So I agree 100%, you know. But I really like that. Yeah, Nirvana, by the way, is a great band. I love Nirvana.
Yeah, I'm a big Nirvana fan too.
Yeah.
John, being a pioneer of this industry and what you do outside the box, I just want to clarify with you. So you've obviously influenced a lot of other brands come up, but I've noticed there are some brands that are almost copycat to your brand. They're not even from the Bay Area, but they have like that Huntington Beach style, and you're like, bro, you're from Texas. How is this? How does this work?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you view that? I had to get that off my chest, bro.
Yeah, man. You know, so you know, when we came out, you know, I mean, I will take some of that credit. You know, I really will. You know,
limited editions, for example, we've never seen that before in the supplement.
We were doing that since 2011. We were the first brand in my eyes, and I would love to see if anyone had done it before, because I'll give them all the credit, you know. I never really was asking for the credit, you know, but we were the first to do limited editions, you know, and the way we did them especially, you know. I didn't just do the flavor. I didn't even just do the formula. I did the branding. I did the whole story, you know. All the intellectual property that goes into making a limited edition too, with the names. You know, Werewolf Blood is something that I personally own. No one else can use that name, you know. But yeah, you know, it was something that I did because I wanted to have more fun with it. You know, I'm that person in class that, you know, I'll listen to the teacher saying, but I'll be drawing a picture, or, you know, I'll do something else. You know, I want to have more fun with what I do.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a sense of, though, like your brand is built from your cult base as well, and it's kind of grown from that, and you've got that that foundation there with the cult following. When someone tries to copy the brand, but they don't have the foundation, there's something kind of fake that it doesn't feel right. There's a disconnect, you know. It's kind of like you've got Nirvana, right? But then you've got Nickelback, and it's just like they're never going to be Nirvana. They're never going to be Nirvana. No, you can grow your hair, you can have the scruffy beard, but there's something not quite right there. It's a fake, false version of it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, there's something wrong with that guy over there. You know, you're just like kind of iffy on him, you know. Yeah, 100%, you know, and that's kind of like what had happened. You know, we came out, and then everybody started doing like more creative, cool stuff. You know, I feel like I kind of brought a lot of life to the industry, you know, because it was really boring. And that's kind of why that's why I did the company, actually, to be honest. Like, I saw brands that I respected, you know. I can even name some too. I'm not on a problem with that. But like, I liked a couple things from this company, a couple things from this company, but the whole story was boring. It was just like gym stuff, and like, that's very cool. Yeah. It's still cool, you know, don't get me wrong, but I thought there was a little more that needed to be done.
You came in when there was all just Ronnie Coleman, big guys, and just bodybuilders.
You know, and that's very cool. You know, I wanted, when I was younger, I wanted to be a bodybuilder. There was nothing else I wanted to do. You know, nothing else meant more to me than getting more muscle. You know. But now,
another thing, Myoblox. Did you mention Myoblox? How you start? How did the name Myoblox occur? Like,
I got a big story for that one. That was a good story, actually. But let me backtrack really quick just to fully go over that whole question. But when we did the brand, you know, and we started kind of getting everywhere, yeah, a lot of brands started doing limited editions. They started doing like all the cool name flavors and every, I was like, James Bacuzzi even warned me. He's like, John, like, I'm gonna blow the company up. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. So we did it. He's like, there's gonna be these copycat brands that are just gonna come out and they're gonna start kind of like taking a couple accents from the brand and they're gonna start putting it into their own product, And I'm like, you know what? That's flattery. It's kind of like when Drake or someone else came out and they did a really cool flow and everyone started taking the flow a little bit and the style, But I mean, have at it. If I can do my style better than you could do my style, so
it's a compliment. Isn't it? I think if it shows you're doing something right. If you've got haters, you're doing it right. I think, or if you've got people copying you, you're doing something right. Like people don't, you don't see copycat brands copying the mediocre stuff that's 10% of the market share. So
before we get into the name story, because I can tell that there's something behind that. I've always wondered that too, what the hell Myoblox even means. But I just want to ask you, like I know, for example, for me, I've got a firm that I'm working with now who's kind of doing my marketing and is kind of doing we're right in the middle of a rebrand at the moment. But I've found it very hard to, I guess, move forward with what they want to do and with what they're telling me is best for the market. I don't want to upset that original gritty grassroots crowd that has been my core from the start. I don't want to, I feel like I almost owe it to them to stay true to what the brand was when I started it. Like this new firm is saying, look, we've got to change the color system. It's got to, it's going to, it's going to appeal to a larger audience if we do this tub white and if we drop this image off the tub and if we change this logo. And I'm like, yeah, but that's part of my brand and that's what the gritty guys like. I don't want to lose them. Do you ever feel like you owe it to those original guys to keep the feel the same?
Yeah, in a couple senses I do, and there's a couple other senses that you can still do what you're going to do and still win. You can still do what maybe they say and you can still win. So it's kind of like this. It's kind of like, I do a lot of comparisons to music industry just because I feel like the mental is still kind of cohesive with it. Like, it's kind of like an artist, like when they come out, like in they're brand new and you're like, oh, this person's hot. This is like great music. And then they start kind of changing the sound a little bit, you're, oh, they're a sellout. You know what I mean? But like in reality though, they probably don't want to do that either. They want to appeal to more people too, and do more tours and do this and that and feature some people that they wouldn't regularly feature. Even like ingredients. Some companies use ingredients for speculation purposes. Like we call that label dressing, and while that might be good and fine if you put a good amount in there, it kind of goes exactly with what you're saying. But I think you can definitely still keep that same kind of like, I think as long as that mental part's still there, and it's in terms of like how you're just going to be within the company and how the company acts, opposed to maybe how it looks.
Just that almost that bloodline has to continue, but around that everything can kind of change somewhat.
That's a really good question, Stu, and well answered, John. Because I think I've seen a similar place where I started as a 25-year-old, really, get big or die sort of, mindset. My first products were just ultra high stim, blow your face.
I met you at that time, bro. You're like 135 kilograms, 300 pounds in American.
And again, a water buffalo. But it was good. It was great. It was a good part of my life, and I loved it. It was big, thick, juicy, strong. It was good, yeah. And my products resembled that. And my hardcore boys that used that stuff back then, obviously now my product line now doesn't have that stuff anymore. I've sort of changed. As I've gotten older, I've gone more towards, the holistic stuff, longevity, optimizing health, brain function, blah, blah. So I find though, as long as you're still the same decent dude that started the high stim pre, I think people will still respect the brand and still follow, I think if their intentions are right in the first place. So, but I think it's a really relevant sort of struggle, Stu. A lot of people with businesses would be the same. It's like, you go to your favorite restaurant and you like it for a certain vibe, for an ambiance, for a particular look or feel or coziness, whatever, and they get renovations, or what have you, and so many, this is really relevant content to so many
John's
people.
favorite restaurant is a little dodgy looking, what is it, that teriyaki chicken place near the warehouse, by the way.
No. Dude, I had some of that stuff and it made me fall asleep, man. It just puts me out, dude.
I think anything near the warehouse is our favorite place, man. I got nothing where I am. Hey, this warehouse is in fucking desert. But I just, that was really good because a lot of people probably struggle with that, Stu, and John as well. And people who've been around a while, like both you guys have as well. Like I think if you need to change to grow and adapt with the market. You can't always just, like sometimes it's good to see the growth, but I think it's more so probably just be a good person and just do it like you always did, and people will still respond. I don't know. But you've definitely sort of changed, and but that's almost your point, right, John? Like you're very fluid and creative, and your brand changes and fluxes, and there's new labels, you're almost against the grain. A lot of people build branding. Like when you go to someone like Stu mentioned, a marketing agency, they go, okay, what's the avatar of the person you're trying to target? What's your target market list, their demographics, where they live, what they do? Like, well, this is boring. I didn't do this when I didn't start it for that. But in this particular instance, it's more so, you're sort of like, every product's different. Every branding's different. Every avatar of the person you target is different. Anyone started listening who would start their own business, that would almost seem like, wow, how does that come about? But you've almost made a brand on it. So is that a purposeful thing, mate, with you? Is that something you do on purpose with each thing, or?
Yeah, I think every product needs its own story, its own demographic in a sense. Originally, I mean, even we have our pre-workout. We used to have really, in the beginning, you can go super hardcore and all that type of stuff, but then you gotta play by a couple more new rules, and I'm good with that, because I can still make great stuff, still be compliant, and still have the same type of story that resonates with that whole original support system. So yeah, I mean, there's been products I've made just because I can appeal to another market, like the Omega that we had, that appeals to a whole new market. Martian, which is our greens powder, that appeals to
I love that product, by the way.
Oh, it's my favorite.
I love that
man.
product. Yeah, cucumber lime.
Oh man, yeah, pepino lemonade actually. Yeah, yeah, but we're doing a new flavor too, passion fruit. Well, that's
hey guys, listen up, guys. You heard it here first. Let's get into the story behind the name Myoblox. What on earth does Myoblox mean? Where did it come from? What is it?
Yeah. So originally, I remember the day too. I remember exactly every little detail about that day. I was in my first warehouse. I was in San Carlos, in California. It's in the Bay Area. It was like, I think like 2,000 square feet or something like that. And I'm just in this, there's like one small office. I mean, it's probably like a good, like 7 by 7, something.
How old are you here, John,
small.
by the way? What was your age at this time?
I probably was 22, probably 22, 23. Yeah. So, I was trying to get a cool rebrand, and I liked the word myo because it stems from the word like muscle. Myo means of muscle. It's like a myofibril, like all aspects of that. And originally I wanted to be more like one of those bodybuilding brands. So I was like, okay, myo, and I like the word blocks. Originally the company was going to be called Building Blocks. However,
it doesn't have the same ring to it there, John.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm thinking like
sounds like a Lego or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like thinking like, okay, like more like a symbolic way. Myo means like building in a sense, So I'm like, muscle is to like build, and then blocks. I didn't want to use the word BLOCKS because it had like a different, it resonated different with me. It didn't look good. I just didn't like it. It was too bulky of a word, I guess, at the time. So I was like, let's replace the CKS with the X. Now the X to me meant like, kind of like that X factor, in every individual. X is a variable to me that means whatever the hell you want to do, you can build it. So it meant build yourself in a sense, like in any aspect, whether it be muscle, mind, health, So Myoblox means building yourself. Yeah,
right. That's really cool. It's got such a man, because I think the the name at the start is it's seemingly so important, isn't it? But it also evolves with things as well, I suppose, isn't it? Like you said, when you first started, it was all about the like I said, building muscle. It's very muscle centric, as I guess a lot of us are. And then as you've evolved, so and you've also mentioned there mind body health, and you're looking at you've got an omega-3 product there, you've got a greens powder now as well. Yeah, it's funny how it evolves with the background story. But
I'd have a question though as well. You've almost kind of become synonymous with the name Skywalk. You are Kid Skywalk. One of your fantastic nootropic formulas is called Skywalk. Is there a Star Wars connection there, or Luke Skywalker, or is it just your own kind of? Where does Skywalk come from? Because that's very interconnected with Myoblox as well.
Yeah. Originally, everyone's like, oh, you're just a Star Wars fan, you're a dork. And I'm like, this is not what you guys really think it means, So Skywalk to me always meant higher mind, So when I made the product Skywalk, it just means like to elevate your mind, There's a lot of like Native American meaning to it too, but on top of that, like I just didn't really want it to resonate with Star Wars. Granted, I love Star Wars. I've watched every movie you can watch, but it wasn't about that, It just meant higher mind, and like to increase your thought process, So when I made Skywalk, I wanted for productivity, to increase your, productivity, have a higher mind, increase your thinking rate, better clarity, memory. So in a sense, it really has nothing to do with Star Wars, even though it sounds really cool. It has nothing to do with Star Wars, so you've heard it here.
That's relevant, mate. When you said higher mind, like the word nootropic literally means forward mind. So that's a really relevant, and a lot of you see that in a lot of your Ayurvedic medicine. You'll see things like Brahmi, that group which covers your ginkgos and that sort of thing. That literally means celestial intelligence. So like it's really there was some links there that I was hoping I sort of thought I wonder if he's going at it from this angle with Skywalk. It's going to go over the heads of most consumers, but it's still fun that you can build that in, and that's the beauty of having your own brand to do that with. People don't have to get it, but you get
maybe inadvertently won those Star Wars fans over too. That's always a plus.
I'm all for it. I mean, the more the merrier,
So John, how did you get into the nootropic space? Because you came in the nootropic space where no one really did or heard of anything like that before it was popular. How did you popularize that? I was always big on ingredients that really just got me amped. And then like I crossed a certain threshold where I was kind of over that part. I kind of wanted something that I could sit down at a desk and not like be shaking and not be sweating and not get the beta alanine. Were you doing pre-workout before that? Like taking pre-workout just to focus?
I was, I was like, I was drinking that. I was drinking a fuck ton of coffee.
Good man.
And I mean a fuck ton, like a lot.
See, and that's a funny thing that a lot of people don't sort of realize is one of the reasons that they enjoy coffee is because we actually do experience a nootropic effect from caffeine. Aside from the fact that we get the central nervous system stimulation from it, a lot of the times people who are drinking coffee at work, to get more done or to be creative or to, improve their thought process, it's actually the nootropic benefits of the caffeine that are doing that. And there's some things that they could be taking that don't fry the adrenals in the same way that the caffeine does, right?
Exactly, and that was the problem. I was drinking so much damn coffee that, man, I was tired, at the end, like midday, and when you drink a lot of caffeine and stuff like that, your brain gets in too, and your body kind of tells you, hey, I need to go to sleep. I need to replenish that. That's why you get that tired feeling too, But I made Skywalk actually. It's kind of random, because I was drinking so much coffee through. I was going to sleep very late. I was waking up super early. I had to work my father's job because he got really ill, super ill, and I had to work his job at 4 a.m. I got done at 12. At 12, I was building out a shop that I used to own in San Mateo. So I was just nonstop till I went to sleep. It was like literally right when I wake up, I'm working, and then all the way till the end. I was literally passing out on the couch with my computer. I still do that, by the way. But You know, the problem why I made Skywalk was because I couldn't always just take the coffee with me. I couldn't take so much with me, you know, to have that caffeine yield. And I just started making some powders and stuff. I loved Alpha GPC. That's why it's always going to be in Skywalk no matter what. I'm going to keep it in no matter what. The cost can go 50% increase. I don't care. It's just something that it's more near and dear to my heart. You know,
speaking of increase, John, sorry, just for the listeners, a lot of a lot of people who take Skywalk or Loco don't even realize that you use the patented ingredient real calf.
Yeah. That cost me 3 times more than just normal caffeine. You know,
and
I'm not a big you know, it's had its fair share in my system for the past years. You know, I still have it like here and there. You know, I mean, if I'm ever testing out, like, I remember just like grabbing a sip from my buddy's, like, you know, thermos or something, or there's like some caffeine hydrous. I'm not gonna like, it's not the end of the world. I don't mind it. You know.
It's worth
but
it.
Yeah,
that's such a good value, John. I love that you've got that. Like, there's some ingredients that are non-negotiables, and I think, you know, Alpha GBC, and it's really unusual because, like, when you look at, and again, it comes back to like the felt effect, right? Like, it's only like Alpha GPC is only what, like 18% choline as an actual compound. Like, for an acetylcholine booster, it's quite interesting, but the felt effects are phenomenal on Alpha GPC. Like, there's nothing like it, and I found that with that sample I was playing with this week. I went from a subpar dose, it was like 150, 200 megs. I went to 300, and straight away it was like light bulb. You know, and it's such a felt nootropic. You know, and it's phenomenal. Yeah. And yet you put in other boring cholines like choline bitartrate, much cheaper. It's like 40% choline. It's like 3 times higher choline, but the bioavailability is terrible. You take it and you're like, I don't really feel anything. It's so worth it, you know, like paying.
I think Alpha GPC has got, in anyone who's really interested in this nootropic space, and anyone who's delved into it and tried some of these things, I think Alpha GPC would have to be in everyone's top 3. Like, my top 3 are Alpha GPC, straight up L-tyrosine, and for botanicals, I just love Rhodiola rosea.
That stuff is good.
They're my 3. What are your 3 favorites there, John?
Oh man, a top 5 would be easier, man.
Give us your top 5. Why not? Give us your top 5.
Let's see. Okay, well, I love Alpha GPC. I do love L-tyrosine. I love natural caffeine, just because caffeine is something I use every day. Now, if some use it every day, there's some type of significance, you know. So natural caffeine, whether it be from green tea or from green coffee bean or any natural source, you know. Rhodiola is great. I mean, that's a great adaptogen. I love it. That might be my top 6. But that's a really good question. I've really actually never asked myself what my top like 3 or 5 ingredients are. But I think number 4. I think number 4 could probably be gosh, I mean, there's stuff that we just can't put in products anymore. I like Nupep.
We should change it to. We should change it both legal, like paralegal, and legal. So Nupep. My God, like that was the first attempt at a nootropic, and the Russians just bombed it. Like, they absolutely nailed it. The first one ever, and it was like, and they just went boom and nailed it. Perfect home run straight out of the gate. Then they banned it. Like, if you have 20 megs of Nupep in any supplement, it is phenomenal. You know, you're like it'll stimulate your glutamate. It'll boost dopamine. It'll prolong serotonin. It does everything that you want a nootropic to do. But alas, it works, so they banned it. But it was a really good compound. Nupep that I miss dearly. That there's. I mean, then you go like phenylpiracetam, you know. But like, other than that, though, I would say my top 3. I'll answer this right now. I actually got it now. Alpha GPC, L-tyrosine, and 100%. My top favorite ingredient of all time would probably have to be Nividrin. Nividrin is super rare. You can't really get it anywhere else. I had the natural version that I put in Super Duper, and per kilo, you can't really. I'm not worried about anyone even ever trying to use it, because most companies, it just costs so much money, and it's so hard to get. You know, there's kilos overseas that cost $100,000 of this stuff. No joke. It is just not worth to put into a product. So I'm never worried. You know, you can probably get a cheaper version. There's glantamine, which is like the cheap synthetic version, which I would never use. But also, you know, probably my next one, probably, I don't know.
See, isn't it funny though? Sometimes you really like bang your head against a wall when you're trying to develop a product. Like for me, I'm right into the anti-aging space, and I've been really interested in, things like NMN and it's just so dear. Like if you want to put it in a dosage in someone that is going to be similar to what we are using in the rodent studies, it's like, man, like I'm going to have to charge $300 for this product just to put it out, just to get it out on the market and it be viable. And it's just like, you're just like,
try and market it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I'm interested to hear your top, let's say 5 nootropics, and they can be crossovers with what myself and John have said as well. So don't think of fresh new original ones.
I've been playing with, I'll tell you what, the same other two, because like tyrosine's, it's beautiful playing with dopamine agonists. They're just a lovely thing. I do really like Lion's Mane. But I've joined it for the BDNF angle because I guess I'm interested in longevity too, particularly neural, because I see a lot of I think in this space that all of us occupy, we're all charging every day, right? Like we're all absolutely hammering to try and grow our brands, grow our own personal careers and so on. So I think the biggest thing that makes the difference to me is that angle. I think nootropics interest me more than caffeine anymore, because I find if I'm mentally in the game, I can do most things. And Lion's Mane at a decent, even from 0.5 gram upwards, will boost BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, which that's actually like, the birth of new neurons or the improved like neurogenesis. That interests me a lot. If I can undo some of the damage I've done from years of aging, I'm very interested. So Lion's Mane, from that angle, I love the idea of. So I would put that in my as my top 3, I reckon: the GPC, the tyrosine, and Lion's Mane. I haven't had the luxury of using it in a product just yet. I'm still tweaking the ideas on what I do with the nootropic, because I think I'd probably try and include some of the precursory stuff too, because I think similar like with the amino acid game, where you can switch on mTOR all you want with leucine, but you need to have the actual building blocks there, minus the pun, to actually do the work. So I'm thinking about playing around with the acetyl-CoAs and acetyl donors. So I'm having a bit of fun with that space. And then the unsung hero, which would be number 4, acetyl-L-carnitine. Really, like, it's just a real basic like acetyl donor, nothing interesting, but the felt effects are really, really fascinating on it. Like, it is one of those things you use and you just feel it straight away. You can have all the choline you want, but you want to have an acetyl donor. So, I'd actually say acetyl-L-carnitine, because it's an unsung hero. It's not even for that. And I think there's something to be said for the underdog story.
I found using acetyl-L-carnitine in formulas that I've done in the past. The number one factor that frustrates me is flavoring. It's really hard to make something taste really delicious. Like for me anyway, maybe you've come up with some way of doing it, John, but the acetyl-L-carnitine just really throws that kind of bitter, vinegary flavor in there, and it's very, very hard to mask that.
John, do you remember Adzi that I was taking too much acetylcholine? We're going out.
There's too much carnitine in
it. You smell like fish, did you?
Hey, John, I'm going to ask you a quick question, bro. In your Skywalk Exo, the new one, what do you think of Kana as a nootropic? Whatever. What do you think? What's your thought on it? You guys' thoughts?
I like Kana. However, I would have to say that it kind of curbs a lot of the CNS that I would normally get with the caffeine that I'm taking, So let's say if I have
L-theanine or something.
Yeah, it kind of has like that kind of effect for me, at least, Do I feel focused and like lasered in? Yeah, I feel pretty good on Kana.
Very mellow though, right? It mellows you out a lot.
Yeah, it just curbs down the caffeine too much, because caffeine kind of brings me right here. The Kana kind of puts me here, but I'm more like focused, The one thing I don't like is like flavoring that stuff in the viscosity that it gives you when you mix it. For the user experience, I don't really, really like it. If you do it right, and there's definitely ways to do everything right, it just poses more obstacles. There's too many variables that I don't like about it. At the same time, though, it does work, and I like it and I don't like it.
It's like when you put like withania in a stimulant-based product, because they've started doing that now, because it's a buzzword for a lot of people now. They're using these adaptogens in stimulant-based formulas, and they're like, it'll support adrenal health. I'm like, no, the 300 CAF CNS stimulation is not going to be buffered by 100 milligrams of 2.5% of analoids. But anyway, but the same sort of thing. You get this massive CNS stimulation, and you get the noradrenaline release, all that cool stuff. And then you get the other, then you've got this sort of fighting signal with you know, trying to push away from the glutamate and go more towards the GABA and the parasympathetic. And all you do is you just take that nice edge that brings in a really good feeling stim, and it just dulls it. But you still get all the CNS stimulation and burden. And you're like, this is just really spastic. So I 100% agree, man. I love that ingredient, but I'd probably almost use it in like a non-stimnotropic perhaps, or even
just like a chill formula.
Yeah, like a chill formula.
Yeah.
It's a lot of those sort of, you know, natural herbals do that. Hey, like kava. Kava's a really great one when used in low doses for a, you know, similar sort of thing.
That's banned in Australia though now, kava.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Unless you aqueously extracted or something. Apparently it's a legal form, but you've just got to own a lab. But flavoring is an interesting one because you just touched on that then, and that's something that I've always found really fascinating about your brand. From the start, you've got a huge amount of actives, and Matt mentioned right back at the start, you're involved in every part of it. So I can appreciate what happens when you're trying to flavor 5 grams of beta-alanine and 5 grams of taurine in a pre. Like, that sucks. How do you, did you really struggle to bring that to market in a palatable way when you first started, man? Like, was that a really big hurdle for you?
You know, like, I've been doing flavoring since 2011, you know. In 2011, I had no idea what the hell was what. You know, when I thought of flavor, I thought you buy flavor and you taste it and like, oh, that tastes like bubble gum. But you know, I originally got this bubblegum flavor and I tried it and I was like, what the hell is this shit? Like, it doesn't taste like bubblegum at all. This thing sucks. So I didn't know, but what I know now is you got to combine sweet with the acids, with the bitter blocker and the flavor to make an actual flavor. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was
the same when I first got. I bought some some flavors from a flavor house in the US and just put them in the product as is, and thought that the sweetener and everything comes with it.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that that's separate, and it's like. Like there's something, maybe these things are off, you know, maybe they're expired, I'm not sure. And later on I realized that, hey, you're exactly what you're saying, these aren't sweetened, they're just flavor bases. This is what they're trying to do. And I think the thing that I found with flavoring too is sometimes making a flavor that tastes nice, something that you enjoy, and then naming the flavor later is easier. So tasting it and going, you know what, that almost tastes a little bit like this. Let's call it that, you know, rather than trying to make something, you know, whatever it is, cherry pie flavor or.
No, you're 100% right. And I got a perfect example of this. It was 2015. And I have just cases of flavor and sweetener and acids, and sometimes like on a Sunday or a Saturday night, I'm just like, you know, my office is really cool. Like at that time, it was a new office in San Carlos, the same area. Had a big screen TV, had a fridge, had a couch, had a huge product dev table, giant whiteboard, and nothing was more fun than just busting out all the flavors and just making cool stuff, you know? So I was making limited edition proteins at the time, and I was just combining, like, I'm like, let's see what happens. I combined it like cherry cola flavor with this and this and this. And then I was like, holy shit, this tastes just like Fruit Loops. So I made a Fruit Loop flavor and it tasted just like it. Now, the one you kind of get nowadays is pre-made. At this time, there was no pre-made real like Fruit Loops flavor that I could get my hands on. So I came out with this. Yeah, and it was just, I mean, I haven't had a better Fruit Loop flavor than that ever. I wish I still had the formula, you know.
You've forgotten it.
I go through a laptop every single year, you know. Like legitimately, like I have a laptop. I'm not even on my laptop right now. I'm using Mark's laptop right over here. You know, mine's like broken, and I'm still cranking away on that one. You know, I got one. I got transferred. But to answer your question, though, that's the best way to go about a flavor process sometimes, especially if you're not working with a flavor house. Nowadays, though, I like to stress less. You know, and I kind of like to delegate a little bit. So I do work with some manufacturers now. They'll do some flavors for me. I do work with a couple flavor houses now. Do I still dip in the flavor? Hell yeah, you know, I love it. You know, if it's not good and I'm like, okay, this is kind of like really boring flavor, I might add some tartaric acid in there or something like that to kind of spice it up. And then it goes from like 80% good to like 100%. So I still have since I've been in every avenue of the company, I still know how everything works. I can always give good critique at the end of the day. But to answer your question, I kind of agree with you. 100% name it after you flavor it.
Yeah. Well, see, I've got a product called Thermodryne, and it's a non-stimulant, thermogenic. It's got some GBB, acetyl-L-carnitine, all this stuff in it. Anyways, we also have a big dose of CLA powder in there, and it really, there's no way to kind of, like, it's got almost this ice creamy sort of after flavor, no matter what you do to it. Now, I don't think you guys don't have cordial over in the United States, do you? It's like cordial is kind of like a concentrated. Yeah, it's almost like, you know how you've got your what do you call that orange stuff, that powder that you guys put in water? Yeah, it's kind of, but it's like a concentrated liquid, and we put a little bit in the bottom of a glass and the rest water, and it's like a very common drink is cordial. Anyways, I named these products raspberry cordial and lime cordial because that's what I was trying to make when I was doing the flavors, but really they don't taste like that. So now we're going back and kind of redoing the labels and renaming them what they taste like. And we've got a ice cream over here called Lime Splice Ice Cream. So we're changing the lime cordial to lime splice ice cream. We're changing the raspberry cordial to raspberry spider, because that's what they taste like. And every time I've done a taste testing and I've gone, this is our raspberry spider flavor, people are like, that's delicious. But if I tell them it's raspberry cordial, they go, oh, it's not quite right. So just the name of the flavor has an impact on people's expectation of the taste and their enjoyment of the flavor.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Your involvement at each level, John, I think is really something interesting as well, because I try and cater some content towards the people who, again, are trying to start their own or anyone running their own business now. And I think a lot of people who, like yourself, love to be involved in every part of the process, especially when you're a formula nerd, you love graphic design, you've got you can do the whole thing yourself. But as you've grown, obviously, you've probably learned the importance of delegation and stuff. But I'd love to, if you could impart any sort of pearls of wisdom there on people listening, because I think I fall in that trap all the time where, I still box the orders, pack the orders, invoice, design, label work, like every single part of the business you do yourself, and you want it to, because it's your baby, it's your project. You want it to be perfect. You want to have control over all of it. At what point did you get in your journey from, like 10 years ago, doing it from a garage sort of thing right through, did you go, okay, I need to delegate that to a flavor house and just tweak it instead of sitting in your office for hours trying to come up with a Fruit Loop cereal? At what point did you go, and how did you mentally overcome that? Because it's really hard to let go of control when it's something so personal. Like this is a tough, you've got it's a really personal thing, a brand. So yeah, one, how did you first, like, when did you decide that? At what point? And two, how did you sort of really, did you struggle with that control, like letting that control go to someone else for input on your product? That's my question.
Yeah. I think that the main thing, is at least having your hands in every single avenue originally, like, and from the get-go. This way, when you do bring someone in to do that job, it, pretty much top to bottom, and then you can teach them. Now, sometimes the job is not going to be 100%. It's never going to happen that way by delegating. It might be 90% and not your 100%. 90% is good enough for me, I mean, like, let's say if I'm having someone write a note, or if I'm having like a thank you note, maybe I would add a little more in, but you know what? If it's still done good, that's still good with me, because then now I can do another job really, really good. I'm being more productive. I'm able to grow the company too. And it's still a great job. Like Kevin, for example. Kevin's my logistics manager. He does a great job.
He's a gun, man. He's a gun.
He's the best, So it's like him, I teach him just a little bit, but now it's like he does the, it started off and maybe not as good as me, but now he does the job better than I could do it, because he just grew with it, so it's never going to be perfect no matter what, but it will get there sometime soon, but you kind of got to let control go to get more control, if that makes any sense at all.
You can only grow to a certain point, right, by yourself. You need a good team behind you, and you need to relinquish a little bit of that that control in order to do that. I think by the looks of things, we're getting up to the end of our time with you there, John. But I'd just like to, maybe on a final note, note, if you could give us a little bit of insight about what you think is, or obviously, you know, you're creating products and stuff like that, but where is the industry going over the next sort of 12 months? Where's it heading? What is some stuff you guys are doing? What can we look forward to? Or what do you think everyone's going to be seeing in the next 12 months?
Oh man, we have so many. I mean, right now we have so many products in the works right now, so many reformulations, a lot of new avenues with the company. You know, I'm going to be introducing probably before the year ends, probably at least 4 new products, 3 more limited edition series. But you know, I would have to say there's a couple things I can't say yet. I will hop on.
Go on, John. Go on.
You know, I'm getting into more other things than just powder now. You know, and capsules. So I'll leave that as like take that how you want it.
Yeah, have a think,
let your mind
people.
dream it up.
Yeah.
Well, Super is a very unique ingredient product that you've made as well. The Super.
That was my other ingredient in the top 5. You know,
I love that thing, man. Yeah.
That has every single thing you can really want in a product. It helps with deep REM sleep, recovery. You know, it has, I mean, so many other things too, man. I mean, it's literally one of my favorite products because, you know, it also helps the length of telomeres too. You know, so the older you get and stuff like that, the more you age, your telomeres get shorter and stuff, and it kind of reduces your quality of life. You know, so I mean, with this thing, we're doing like a 5-year study on this where we're going to be able to prove that, make claims that this helps the length of your telomeres and stuff. That's something I'm really looking forward to doing.
That's a space that really excites me as well. Do you think that longevity space is something that we're going to see a lot more companies hitting in the next 12 months?
It's gonna grow exponentially, like because this COVID thing, everyone's starting to be a little more conscious of health, immune, longevity. You know, it just seems like I feel we're living in the twilight zone right now with what's going on. It's just insane, you know. So yeah, it's going to go more there. It's going to all shift more towards lifestyle. You know, I don't see too many companies just talking about bodybuilding. Now it's like, you kind of got to do it all, you know, like, and I'll I keep doing this. Another music comparison, I love it, by the way. I should have worn mine. We could have been twins.
Well, I'll tell you what. I asked Matty, can you hook me up with a Myoblox hoodie? And he's like, oh, bro, you know, it's hard to get them, and you know, bro, like I don't know if I can, you know, I'll have to talk to. So I just went on the Myoblox website, ordered it direct from the US, and then what I did was I went on social media and I said to all the other accounts, hey guys, Matty's hooked me up with this hoodie. Wow. What did he do for you guys?
Oh my gosh.
Up.
You should have seen this guy, man. Matt, you should remember you at the warehouse.
Yeah,
he was grabbing every shirt he could get his hands on.
Man, it's hard to get stuff from you guys.
No, just mine. I'll just
you told me, Matty. You told me you didn't even have any Myoblox stuff when I said, "Can't you give me one of yours?"
I got back to the hotel.
Boy, you're a liar. He must have grabbed like.
I grabbed $1,000 worth of stuff, man.
Yeah, you definitely did. Then I took him to Disneyland.
He legitimately did. It was awesome, that place.
There you go.
Thank you,
Matty. I can picture you kitted out in your Myoblox t-shirt with your Disneyland Mickey Mouse ears on.
the world's most jacked Minnie Mouse.
Oh yeah.
That's No, that's bloody awesome, man. I love the I love that. There's some really good messages there, actually, I think, that we've, which I'm really enjoying. People who have been around for a long time, people might not have realized how long in your particular instance, mate, but I think that there's some real gems.
9 years, man. 9 years, I'd say.
That's a long ass time in the game, mate. And a lot of, and I think as you're sort of getting ahead of observing changes might happen, because in the US, anti-aging is already quite a large space in a clinical field, like in terms of a lot of medical clinics and so on are already geared towards that. I think it's only inevitable, like as I'm aging, I'm certainly looking at that more longevity and optimizing. And telomeres is a really interesting space around that as well, as a bit of a, biological versus chronological age sort of indicator. So anything that works on that, mate, is going to have our attention for sure here in the Aussie market. I think in we're probably, what do you reckon, guys? Probably a good 12 months behind the US market, usually a year or 2 years behind the US.
I reckon I'm maybe a little bit even more than that, mate.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when I went to the CPHI Expo in China, they were already selling bulk NMN out to the US, and it had never even been mentioned in Australia yet. So, that's that was back in 2016. And the US was already the biggest consumer of NMN in the world. So, that's only just coming sort of here now. Plenty of space to move in that anti-aging field and stuff. But I think on that note, we might wrap things up. We say this nearly every guest now, but there's just so much more we could talk about. I think we're going to need to get you on for another episode, John, down the track.
I would love to.
Especially with these releases of these products coming that we can only imagine. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and I just want to thank you for giving your time.
Mine. Thank you so much. I had a good time. Seriously, I'm just happy we're able to make this happen because I'm the worst at planning, but again,
the best at creating though, John, man. I collect all your stuff. Even Gorilla Chemist, he collects all your products, man. He tells me. He puts
man, GC,
he's got all your stuff up there. I remember in Melbourne, he's like, "Oh, Matty, can I get this?" I'm like, shit, man.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to him in a while, man. He's doing some really cool stuff too, man. He's like, I mean, he's very ahead of his time, I think, as far as a formulator goes, So my hat always has been off to him. That was something I actually looked up to when I was, just kind of coming up and stuff. So
he actually gives credit to you as a formulator as well.
Oh man, that means a lot because I got to hear him say that.
He won't tell you to your face. They'll never tell you to your face. People who do well, it's like that staunch mentor figure. They'll never tell you you did well to your face, but they'll tell people around you that, hey, that you're doing all right, And I think, he's someone that a lot of us have. Yeah, he was one of.
He's a massive fan of Myoblox, man. We all are. So, and everyone down here in Australia is too.
Well, I can't wait to come back, man. This time I'm going to stay for 60 days, not 50 days.
He got stuck down here. He missed his plane, by the way. He was at Bondi Beach sunbaking.
No. I didn't miss my plane. I intentionally missed my plane.
Some things are worth missing flights for, gentlemen. But on that note, thank you for making episode 16 so special, John. That was absolutely awesome, man. I look forward to a part 2 with you in the near future, man. Thank you very much.
Let's do it. Thank you guys so much, man. And what day is it today? Is it Saturday there? Or?
Saturday, yes.
Saturday morning.
Hey. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much. And let's talk soon. I'll hop on again whenever you guys need me.
Beautiful. See you guys.